Hello and welcome to another episode of Geek Speak. I'm your host, Chris Pedron, and let's jump straight into the news this week. Two DC-based shows have been confirmed for a new home. I use confirmed loosely here. CBS's Supergirl has been reported by multiple entertainment sources to be moving to the CW, home of such shows as The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. So this opens a lot of new doorways for interactions between these shows, as we already know that The Flash has had a crossover with Supergirl, and we've also seen numerous crossovers and cross-characterizations between The Flash, The Arrow, and the Legends of Tomorrow series. So hopefully this will allow for Supergirl to join in more in that universe without having to jump universes as they did for the Flash-Supergirl crossover. In another bit of news, Marvel has confirmed that Natalie Portman will not be playing or be returning to her character of Jane Foster in the upcoming Thor Ragnarok. This is due to a combination of both exterior reasons to the movie as well as interior reasons to the movie, as Kevin Feige has stated that 90% of the movie does not take place on Earth, instead being in the other parts of the Nine Realms, which is basically a fancy, Asgardian way of saying the other worlds or empires that are controlled by members of the other realms. And the last bit of news we have is that sadly Agent Carter has said her official goodbyes to not only the Marvel Cinematic Universe with her with the rather sad scene in Civil War, but also with her series Agent Carter having been officially cancelled due to low ratings over its two critically acclaimed seasons. Now, admittedly, I'm not that surprised by this. While these stories, or while these two seasons were quite good, and did show quite a bit of not only her and the the post-war technology scene, and as well as the, her doing her woman's movement thing in the post-war era for the SSR, and working with Howard Stark and the original Jarvis. Sadly, most of the episodes were not very action-packed, not very exciting, didn't have all that much intrigue. It was good, but it was just a bit too slow, in my opinion, to really catch the attention of the audiences. Mostly the audience that was interested in stuff like Captain America, First Avenger, and then the later Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and so on and so forth. It was good to see Peggy Carter in action. It's just a pity that, given the era, there weren't as many stories to be told that were that good, that they could tell without majorly affecting the history of the other things in their live-action universe. Now, a bit bigger news that I want to talk about is the fact that it's recently come out that X-Men Apocalypse could have had a very different look and feel to it. Not so much in its story or the actual graphics they've used, but in the fact that originally they were only going to depict 3 of the 4 Horsemen, with Psylocke having been added at a later date. Now, the reason for this was, in the original script, they had Charles Xavier getting kidnapped, roughly halfway to a third of the way through the movie. with the intention on Apocalypse's side of turning him to the other team, which would put him allied with Magneto and Archangel. Now, the reason they have stated is not entirely certain for this, but in the interview that they gave, or that Simon Kinberg gave, who is the writer and producer of Apocalypse, he stated that in the third act, Xavier wasn't really doing much of anything. So instead they went through the comics, or the history of the Marvel comics and the X-Men universe, and looked at other potential Horsemen that had been at one point or another in the comics. And eventually they settled on Psylocke, not only because she had that psionic and psychic abilities, but because, well, quite frankly, she would make a strong influence on the team with balancing it out between 2 male, 2 female. And as they had only recently been talking to Olivia Munn about a role in Deadpool, which she turned down, they looked her up about a role in Apocalypse as Psylocke, and one of the first images that popped up was a piece of fan art done of her as Psylocke herself. So it seems like a natural decision, since many fans wanted her to do Psylocke. She definitely looked the part. However, some people are questioning this move, as it seems a lot like they may have chosen her because of her similarity or similar appearance to the character as opposed to her actual acting ability. I personally think she would do a good stint as this character, not just because she looks a lot like the character, but because she does actually, in my opinion, have not only the comedic chops, but the acting chops, and, quite honestly, the fan passion for the character. Now, the last bit of news I want to talk about today is a bit of Suicide Squad news, actually. In a recent interview with Vogue magazine, Margot Robbie has said some of the reasons that she believes that we find characters, specifically Harley Quinn, so interesting, and why she was such a massive, popular take-off star from her original appearance in the Batman the Animated Series in the mid-90s. And her reasoning is quite simply that it's fun to watch crazy. When you look at all of the villains in most of the villains in comic books, they're either super rich and have the tech to back it up, or the people to back it up. They have some sort of superpower, or in the case of many of the very popular Batman villains, they're all crazy. And Harley Quinn in particular, there's a quote from Margot in this interview where she said, "She's just a psychopath who runs around gleefully killing people." And I have to admit, that's probably right about Harley. She is unbalanced. She doesn't really care about the emotions of other people. She will kill someone without a second thought. There's only really been a couple of people that she's been shown to have affection for in the DC universe. And that's pretty much been the Joker, Poison Ivy, occasionally Catwoman, and in one particular comic book, which I think was part of the Injustice comic arc, which tied into the Injustice Gods Among Us game, she hinted at the fact that she actually had a child. Possibly a child with the Joker. We don't know, but that she gave up the child because she was scared of what the Joker would do to it. Okay, that's all the news I have for this week. It's a much shorter show because I didn't want to explode with hyperbole on all of these subjects. But, yeah, if you've got any comments, if you want to have a chat about any of our topics today, I'll leave the usual links in the comments below, or in the description below. Feel free to comment, chat, whatever you like. I'd love to get some interaction from you, our viewers. And if you've got anything you'd like us to recommend, and any platforms you'd like us to recommend on, feel free. This week I'm actually not doing a recommendation because, well, with all of the things happening, all of the things I've talked about, a lot of TV shows are ending in America. A lot of TV shows are just coming back at the moment. There's more than enough out there to watch, and there's some great movies at the cinema at the moment if you have the time and money to go to that. So check back next week for all of the new news, all of my opinions. Hopefully I'll get a co-host next week, maybe. But in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you next week, and have a good one.